A warm welcome to all our viewers to our series Back to School. And today I have something wonderful again. The author and Dr. Beate Strittmatter, who I can welcome again today. She's a famous author of the book Save Love. And it's so profound, a book that I have devoured. Even my wife reads it. Everyone reads it. I'm absolutely thrilled. Welcome, dear Beate. Nice to have you here.
Hello.
Dear Beate, I got to know and learn something through your book, and that is really crucial for me. And that will stay with me for the whole of next year, namely psychoneuroimmunology. I've now also found a professor in Salzburg who deals with it. I'll bring that into focus a lot more. It's so brilliant. And thank you very much for giving this gift, that I can talk about it and slowly build up this understanding.
I'll tell you something I've been interested in. Psychoneuroimmunology for decades, and before I knew what I know today, I always thought, guys, you talk about psychoneuroimmunology. Everyone knows that your immune system goes down when you have a conflict, but then it was mostly the end of the article. That was then finished, so nobody said you could look there now, or look here, or look there. Thank God we're already away from the psychosomatic ways. I remember 35 years ago I was in orthopaedics for 6 years, and when we saw a patient with severe back pain, and if I was on night duty in the evening, I said to the nurse, give them the red pill, placebo. If the patient got better after that, we looked at what they have. It's here. The medicine got away from this, Alexander. We now know, and I sometimes have to correct that with colleagues, that psychosomatic does not mean that they have nothing. It means they express an internal problem, what really stresses them and what has a great energy. You can't just throw such energy in the bin. The body has to express it somewhere. On the one hand, there is great energy that they would otherwise not be able to carry. They then express it in a symptom, which is what is a hint procedure. If you're in the bog and you sink, for example, you sink in the bog, let me go a little further away. I'm sinking, the bog rises up to here. And then you're almost sunk with your nose barely out. Nobody sees you. But there is the sign. The sign says, hello, here I am. Please find me, and that's the symptom. And with this symptom, the patient draws attention to themselves without knowing it. Sometimes it's even so bad that they don't even know they have a problem, because it's so painful and because it often cannot be solved for them. It fades into the background, that they only focus on the symptom. And if you're able to reverse this, to look, okay, let's peel this off now, what is actually behind the symptom, since when have you actually had it? And our first topic today is based entirely on practice and is exactly about it. A woman who paid money, one session, another session and another, and then I sat in front of her and she still had a stomachache, and then she was admitted to the clinic. But I think you wanted to say something before I start.
I think the topic is great because going back to this psychoneuroimmunology, also for the audience, this is a school science orientation where one deals with the psyche, with the neurons and with the nerves, and found out that a lot of diseases, actually all diseases, come from the psyche. That means that not just any physical ailment has to be repaired in the body, but also in the psyche. I just read a book by the double professor Dr. Karl Hecht from Berlin. He's 97. Right now I'm reading his book. He writes, actually, it has arrived in medicine, except in oncology. Sad. Very sad. But let's leave that now. Let's do the practical examples of how psyche and body are related. And I'd very much like to tackle the problem of the back right away, which you mentioned earlier, when there is a pinch in the back, or stomach ache, maybe to bring this topic a little closer. so that it doesn't always have to be just a physical problem.
Back then, with the nurse and the red pill, we knew it. But we couldn't really help them with that either. But what we did with the red pill, for humans, and this has been found out in studies, a red pill works better than a blue one. It was even found that even if you tell the patient this is a placebo, it still works. What you do with this person, you activate their belief that it can get better and that it is allowed to get better. However, if they have an underlying problem, how long will it last? And you once asked me, how did I even get to deal with the issues? Very, very easy, because I have to. I think I've already told you that I've had a private practice for 30 years now. Nobody knew that back then. Private practice, what is this? People wanted it like a hole in the head. I came from 6 years of orthopaedics. I was allowed to do acupuncture pain therapy, and I knew I needed time, so I opened a private practice and also taught a lot during that time. And the teachers are the ones at the end of the pyramid at the top. They get the difficult ones that get stuck. And you are forced, people pay you money to get better. And my standard is, it is also written on my forehead, by the way. We already did a show about it. A lot must have happened after the first session. By the way, the patients read this too. They come the second time and I say, how are you? They had A, B, C and D. And then they say, but now I have an E and that's so bad. I say, what about A? Yeah, that's gone. And B? Much better. C? I don't like it anymore. I have to get into the habit of asking, and my assistants tell me, you can't always do everything the first time. So much about written on the forehead. I had to take care of the issues. I was cornered. And I am a teacher. I am a teacher on the basis of my genetic makeup. That runs through the whole family. We are 5 children. 4 out of 5 children are teachers without teaching at school, so just in their professions. And then I saw there are a couple of things. They are just logical chains, and they are laws of logic, and they apply to everyone, for God's sake. So now this patient comes. I've been seeing her for 3 or 4 weeks, and she told me right at the beginning, I took a €450 job just so that I can pay for the sessions with you. It was very clear, I'm investing in you now, and don't waste my money.
Nice pressure.
Exactly, that was the pressure. I felt so pressured. Because then she told me I was already here and I was there and I was there, and none of them could help me. And they say beforehand that they could help me. And at some point I thought, when this exhausting first session was over, watch out, young woman. I wrote to her, you know, I will do what I can. I've got a few things up my sleeve, but I can't do magic either, and maybe I'm not the right therapist for you after all. Then she said that this had moved her, such an open statement to continue to come to me. And then she has 3 more sessions. She told me about back pain and over again, the stomach ache, over and over. And once she was admitted to the clinic. And then she told me that was the key. You have to find that hook with a patient where you can grab them and then you have them. Then she told me, just imagine. Then she started crying. My husband, he didn't even think it was necessary to bring me underwear for the second day, and neither did my daughter. Okay, I thought, stop, what's going on here? And we had the first conversations about her husband always dragging her down. Of course, she was at the right address with me. Now she finally came back, and I was able to help her further. I could work with her. I could tell her what her beliefs are, why this is actually happening. And now she had just been back last week and had abdominal pain, stomachache again. I said to her, let's call her Ms. Smith. Ms. Smith, what happened before, just now? She starts crying and says, it always happens when I'm fighting with my husband. And I tell everyone who is watching, Sometimes it has to come to a head so that one can see things clearly. Sometimes it has to be, the Chinese say, the Chinese translation for crisis is chance riding the dangerous wave. And sometimes things come to a head that you sit in the corner and say, what the heck, I've had that many times now, and now it's getting worse instead of better. Sit down and think about what is the topic, what was the topic before. Get in touch with your soul, that helps. And then I ask, please Lord, send me patience, and right away. That's the prayer for patience. And then I said, so what now? What exactly is he doing to you? And she says, he always drags me down, he devalues my work. She found an employer to pay for my treatments. She told me that at the beginning. She has found an employer, a lovely old man, and she takes care of him. And she's so competent, she can do so much. She can do homeopathy, she can do naturopathy. In the meantime, she gained his trust so much. I know the old gentleman, a lovely old gentleman with bright blue eyes. I was able to help him so far that he can walk again. I think he'll be adopting me soon. He has put so much trust in her that she has his power of attorney. So she is his authorised nurse, companion. And this woman claims every time she leaves my practice, she is half a metre higher, because I would have brought her so far in self-esteem that she would admit it to herself. Now you can imagine that this woman's career is on the rise. She can finally use her skills. And I knew her before with things like, they threw me out of that dog care clinic I worked at and they did this. They even wanted the uniform back. And how can you be so rude? Those were the conversations we had before, and I thought to myself sometimes, when will she be ready to open the door? And at this meeting last week, she opened both doors. So I say, well, let's have a look at it now. You know very well that your skills are very valued. There is a respected elderly gentleman whom you can represent in all things, even at the notary's office, you can represent him. And now her husband comes and says, what you're doing is worthless anyway. And we had sent the gentleman to the dentist because he had rotten teeth. And in the dental clinic, the dentist first said, no, you can't see anything. And then did digital volume tomography, X-ray, and said, oops, who tested him? Is she a dentist? No, I am not a dentist. But I can test. Now the old man's teeth came out, he feels better immediately, but his cheeks are blue, and her husband pulls it off and says, if he died on that chair, imagine that, because the husband likes the old man too, then it would be your fault, or it would be Mrs. Strittmatter's fault. She was a picture of misery when she sat in front of me. So I say to her, okay, your husband devalues you, but why does one person devalue the other? Why does someone devalue the other at all? You can imagine it that way. When someone else feels, her husband feels he's standing here, but he's standing here, the one who wants to devalue you is below you. That is their personal feeling. Why does the man possibly have this feeling? The man is a welder and he doesn't like his job. And he didn't like the second job either. And somehow he never got anything done. And now he's unfortunately in early retirement. What does he do? He sits at home and watches TV. And she complains that he doesn't even do the housework. And he accuses her, well, now that she's so busy, there isn't even something to eat at home. Guilty conscience, guilty conscience. I say, do you have a guilty conscience? She starts crying. Yes, I have such a guilty conscience. So I said, stop. We'll all agree that your guilty conscience cannot be rationally justified. You're bringing home money that is needed. You have a great opportunity, blah, blah, blah. But you can tell someone who feels this way 1,000 times. It is of no use to them. He's at home. He's not useful. That's the feeling he's got. So now, what does someone like that do? You can use this for any case of humiliation and devaluation. He drags her down because at that moment he is higher. It makes sense, doesn't it?
Totally.
I have to write it down quickly. I'm not quick-witted at all, zero at
But
all.
what, you?
Not at all.
You're not quick-witted?
No, if you throw any offence against me now, I wouldn't know what to say at the moment, but there is a trick that can be used. You can prepare an answer for certain situations so that you're ready. And I told her, if that happens again, tell him, or whoever is trying to drag you down on, "Oh, thank you. I see that you value me for who I am and what I can do. I thank you." And then you say, "Give me the butter," or "What's the weather like today?" Change the subject. Or if someone offends you, you can say, "Oh, okay, I have to think about that." And then, "Can you hand me over the pen?" Change the subject. The one who offends you expects you to fight back and defend yourself. No.
It has to be.
If someone has to drag you down, it's a sign that they realise you were standing above them like this. That was the emergency medicine for now. You heard it. I'm an emergency doctor, and I realise that that too is emergency medicine. Now I've said, let's have a look. So he's devaluing you because he's not happy. Then she said, yes, it's true. He feels small, he feels inferior, and he tries again and again to drag me down. And, be careful, he blames me for never succeeding. And she says he accuses me because I've always succeeded in everything. He accuses me of that. I say, he's accusing you of that? We'll get to that. Why this is the case and why she shows it in a targeted manner. Harville Hendrix says, we're looking for a partner with an accuracy greater than an American cruise missile so that we can revive the old things with them. I say, come on, let's see the first. Where is your regularity, actually? When did it actually start that your husband devalued you, and why did you fall in love with him? Then she says he was as solid as a rock, and he was always reliable, and actually, we were in the same clique, we had the same interests, cycling, sports and whatnot, and then we thought it would fit. Now the important question is, you can ask yourself that too, when you have a problem, when did it start? And then she says, when we didn't have children yet, everything was fine. And then you can take a look. This is the natural order of a day. And many overlook that. The partners are mutually number one. Now children are coming, and let's be honest, when you have kids, you have to see if you're doing it right. Women tend to put the children first when they have children. And then the place is occupied. And then the father is out. I regularly see what kind of dramas happen when something like that happens. Doesn't society say that a good mother has to take care of her children? Doesn't it say that? Aren't mothers strong enough to lift even a car when their child is under it? It really is true. Go to YouTube and look for that. It doesn't just happen once. A mother is there for her child. She would give her own life. And does somebody teach us that there is an order in the system and that we must not violate this order? Now you can say, yes, okay, that goes back to this weird Hellinger systemic, he's stupid. Anyway, I don't think he's great either, Hellinger, no. But his students, his disciples, all those who work systemically, who do good, responsible work, I learn from them. Those who violate order have a problem, and that's what I've been looking at for 20 years. At the beginning I thought, what is that? There are rules? Why? I'm an emancipated woman. Why? Why does he say that the woman should always move in with the man, not the other way around? Not possible. So she looked at it, she looked at this picture. I say, what about you? Is that the case with you? You don't believe what happened there. She does this. Yes, but my cats are still missing. She knew. I'm telling you, she knew. Her cats are still missing. Cats? Really? Then she said, my cat, if my husband yells at me, my cat stands in front of my husband and shows its claws. I say, that means Your situation looks even worse, namely like this. By the way, I drew the cats myself, all by myself. The cats are still in there. And then she says, and she looked very proud like that, I have my team, I have my soldiers. Yes, why? He is out. And you wonder why I keep scratching and trying to come in. You violate the order. She was completely shocked. I say to her, understood? Then she says, yes. And now the question came that threw her completely out of balance. Would you be ready to give him the number 1 back? She had no answer then. So we sat there in silence for a bit. So I'm trying to understand the obstacle that she's got there. And there was a very big obstacle. First we went on the subject, why does she experience it again and again, that someone makes her feel guilty. I asked her, does that happen every now and again? Yes, he's already done that and my sister has already done it. And then I said to her, who was the first to do that? And then she says, my brother. My brother is 7 years older than me, and we had a difficult family. My father was an alcoholic, and when I was 7, I already had to deliver newspapers and make money for the family. And I managed everything. The woman can even talk to her animals, I've seen that. And her brother told her, she was 7. When you are 7, you are so easy to shape. Your forearm is soft as clay. And there he writes in, it's your fault. It's your fault that I never succeeded. And the sister loved the brother. And she remembered that. And we both sat there and were touched just like I am now. As a 7-year-old, he is not to blame. He didn't know that. But he told her, I never succeed. And you always have everything. And it's your fault. She has it written here. And it says here, it's my fault, you can blame me. There she sat and said to me, I've had a guilty conscience all my life. Do you really want a partner who has an open knife behind his back? Do you want to hug him? Do you want that? You do not want that. You don't give him the number 1. You don't want to hug someone with an open knife in one hand, do you? But now she understood. And now she has the homework, whether she decides, what she decides, how she decides further. And I saw her once again. The last time I saw her, I had already said that those memories, those traumatic memories, can be erased in different ways. For example, EMDR. Take a look, EMDR. This is a method that goes very mechanically via the brain. There is a website, emdria.de. Have a look what that is. It was designed for American Vietnam War veterans and funded and paid for by the government. Very effective. You can do hypnosis, or when I have people in front of me, I can just go via the ears, and I sent her into this memory with her brother, and the whole body is depicted on the ear, by the way, on the hands and feet too. And at that moment, the memory centres come, and they are always linked to a feeling. And what we can do there, and hypnosis does that too, the memory may remain. The feeling has to go. You can save that for other occasions. So I relieved her there, which is why I would like to say here too, I get so many coaching questions from you. This is so cute. I prefer to treat people when they are in front of me, because then I can send things away right away. Don't be angry if I keep forwarding you to someone. So now she has this homework. The question is, does she want a husband that would then have to come back to number 1? I can't cast my children out, some say. You really do not have to. You do not have to. The children should just be back in order. They are number 2 now. And when a woman is particularly stubborn, I also say, a mother does everything for her children, doesn't she? Yes, I do everything for my children too. Treat your children to the right system. Otherwise, the children will stand by your side, and they will stand in a place where they shouldn't be, and that will cause problems, and at some point you will part with your husband. Is that good for the kids? Children in the wrong place, or no matter, someone in the wrong place, it's like water that you pour into a wall. You pour it in there, and now the frost comes. What is happening? Boom. I even saw a psychologist come to me. Yes, my husband and daughter, they are always in coalition against me. Excuse me? I said to her, tell me, you work systemically, don't you? If you were on your own patient, what would you say? Yes, I am probably not in my place. And why do married people sometimes leave the place? Why do they leave it sometimes? Attention, watch out. Where are you actually, and have you left the place because an offence has occurred? Maybe I'll move to the side a bit, it's safer here. But there remains a vacuum here. Nature has no vacuum. Go back to your place, or you will have to put up with the rest of the family being the coalition and having a problem. She is ready for another chance, and for me that's wow.
Fantastic, dear Beata. I hate to interrupt. It's so nice to listen to you, really, these shows with you. There are emotions, feelings, it's all there. It works. You transported it. The lady can decide. Does she want to continue to have a backache or a stomachache? We now know the reasons. And that just wonderfully shows again how the psyche processes everything in the background that we actually saved. And take a look here. There are a few doctors like you who really have mastered it. But I very much hope that it will soon be established as the standard in medicine. Because that is the be-all and end-all, as we now also know from this psychoneuroimmunology research, that this is where the key is. Dear Beata, please stay tuned. We're doing more episodes, right?
Yes.
Thank you for the beautiful show. Actually, I still have to applaud. It was so nice. Super. You too, dear viewers. I also hope that Dr. Beata Strittmatter, to put it correctly, goes right into your heart, because here is a new kind of medicine, a profound medicine. I always say that the premier class of medicine is practiced here. And I'm very sure this is science fiction that will spread incredibly widely in 2021. Thank you very much for watching, and all the best, and see you next time.